So, yeah, hello again, everyone. And my name is Kamil Gungo, as Mareike said. I work for the European Network for Independent Living. And today we talk about independent living, the institutionalization, and alternatives. I don't see the time because I have the full screen. So, Mareike, don't hesitate to stop me if I go over time or things like that.
Will it do?
Cool, thank you. Let me think. Okay, so let me start very briefly with the introduction of the European Network on Independent Living. It's a cross-disability network, which means that we don't advocate only for one kind of impairment, but for everyone who needs independent living and feels, that it should be included in the movement. That means also that we have members with any kind of impairment you can imagine, from physical impairment to autism and to intellectual disability, for these things. I think there is some background noise from someone, but now it's okay. So we are a grassroots organization by disabled people for disabled people. Some of our values are self-determination, self-representation, deinstitutionalization, and choice and control. And we fight for things, among other things, to access to society, social services, personal assistance, barrier-free environment, housing options, technical aids, and also, technology support, inclusive education, freedom of movement, many different aspects. And we have members in whole Europe, in every country pretty much, both organizational and individual. And we have also a few out of Europe, associated members. Some key campaigns and activities we do. This is just a small selection, of course. We do quite a few things. So Freedom Drive, the picture also here is from the Freedom Drive a few years ago in Brussels. It's a big event when we gather the movement to Brussels every 2 years. It's our key campaign. And, you have 200-300 people. We had it like 2 months ago again, and it was like 300 something people came from all over Europe, disabled people and activists, to participate, in workshops, our conference, the march. The photo here is from the march. It's the highlight every time of Freedom Drive. So we gather all together and we march, 300 people in the Brussels streets, in front of the European institutions, the European Commission, the Parliament, and other bodies, shouting institutional solution, free our people, and other, chants and things. We make ourselves visible and noisy, loud and proud. So we have also party usually at some point. And, it's a very nice networking opportunity that has a little bit of everything. We meet with politicians during Freedom Drive, with the European Parliament. We had an event inside. So it was, some workshops on different topics. So quite a diverse thing. Then every 5th of May, there is the European Independent Living Day, which was an initiative starting from us, from ENIL, but now it's acknowledged pretty much by everyone, and it's celebrated by governments, by European bodies, by other organizations. So, yeah, and it's a day for us to be visible and proud and to do activities, all over Europe and even beyond. We work on a lot of things, but some of our key activities and key pillars are the institutionalization work and personal assistance and everything around these two. But of course, independent living is not only these two, it's much more, as we will see later. We have members meeting. 3 days ago, I came from Sweden when we have our regional members meeting for the Nordic, for the north part of Europe. So every year we try to do a different regional member meeting in person, to discuss the topics interesting and important for the regions and gather the movement and listen to their experiences, their questions, share our work and these kind of things. We work with European Solidarity Corps, which means that which is under Erasmus, which means that we bring young disabled volunteers every year to Brussels, to our office, to work with us and to get experience. This is something we were one of the very few, if not the first, to do it at some point. and still, quite considered a good example because we use the Erasmus, opportunity to bring young people for quite a few months, like 6 months, 7 months, depends, of the case, to be with us in Brussels, to experience the movement. This also helps us to build the leadership of the future of the movement. And we put a lot of attention to our youth network. We're very proud. We have quite a strong and big youth network, one of the biggest disability youth networks in Europe, if not the biggest. And we try, to build the leadership of the movement and the future of the movement. We work on research. Whatever we say and whatever you will also hear today, it's not only our imagination or things we would like to happen, but we base everything on research and on evidence and on things that are happening in some parts of the world. And we do, of course, many projects on different topics that are, important for the independent living or for disability rights, for our members, depending on the case. So let's see. Now let's go to the core of the presentation. So what is independent living? As Adolf Ratzka said, the father of independent living movement, by the way, who unfortunately we lost him a few weeks ago, a few months ago. It was really a shock for the movement. Independent living is having same range of options and same degree of self-determination that people without a disability take for granted. Again, as Adolf said at some point in his many interviews, we are profoundly ordinary people. And what we want is basically what everyone else wants. And the tools, to achieve this. So independent living movement is based on social model of disability, contrary to the medical one. So it's not our impairment that is the problem. For example, here we see a picture with a lady on a wheelchair. She cannot enter the stairs. So the medical model should focus on her medical condition and would say she cannot enter the stairs or enter, I don't know, a bus or different things because of her impairment. We need to cure her or to give her prosthetics. While we say this is a social problem, it's a social disability is a social construction, and the stairs are the problem. If you make a ramp, she could go there. So then in a way you kind of eliminate the disability. Of course, the impairment remain, and we don't, I can still not play basketball no matter what. But a lot of barriers could be not only physical but also societal, attitudinal, could be eliminated if we had the right approach. So we say that disability is a social construction, and we base our advocacy on that. This is a very brief kind of history of independent living in Europe and the world, but it's just very, very basic. Of course, there are many, many more points, but we would need like 2 days to discuss about everything. So I put just the very basics, like the key points. So in 1972, we had the Center for Independent Living, CIL, in Berkeley, California, which kind of is considered like one of the starting points of the independent living. Thanks to the work of people there. Probably many of you have seen Crip Camp. It gives also some kind of also insights on what was happening in USA that time of the the history. Then in 1989, ENIL, our organization, was established by disabled people in Strasbourg. So we are already 35 years old. I am 36, I'm 1 year older than ENIL. And yeah, we did quite a lot of things since then. In 2003, we started the first Freedom Drive, and we meet since then every 2 years. In the beginning, we met in Strasbourg, but then we decided to move to Brussels because it's the capital of Europe and the policymakers. And our advocacy and policy work would be even stronger there. So we come the movement to Brussels, even though Strasbourg is much more accessible than Brussels, so it's much easier to do it in Strasbourg. But still, it's more important, to have a voice in the right place. In 2006, we have the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the CRPD, a very important moment for every disabled activist, not only for us, of course. But of course, there is also the Article 19 on independent living. We will see these things. In 2014, we started the European Independent Living Day, as I mentioned. So already 10 years we celebrate and we raise awareness about independent living. And now, as I said, now it is acknowledged everywhere. And in 2017, there we co-established with other organizations from different continents the World Network of Centers of Independent Living, WIN. This was established in Washington, but it's like a network. We meet and we discuss about independent living, not only in Europe, but in the world level. So you have people from Japan, from, I don't know, Costa Rica, USA, and other organizations, and other countries. So when we talk about independent living, we talk about something that is for everyone. It's not only for people like me on wheelchairs, it's also for people with visual impairments, for people with autism, with intellectual impairments, with high support needs, and with whoever else needs support and, deserves to live independently. So basically for everyone. Here I have an example of YOUNG, the YOUNG model. YOUNG is also the organization that hosted our meeting a few days ago in Sweden, as I said, which is an organization, a very strong and big organization in Sweden, whose members all have intellectual impairment. Some of them have most of them also have physical impairment. Some of them don't even talk. And all of these people live independently. They are not in group homes. They are not in institutions. And how do they do it? They do it with the right support and with the support and decision making. So they have a team of people around them who help them, communicate and manage the assistance and, their money and everything. And, there are different safeguards and different aspects of this, how it can work. And there are also different models in different countries of similar logic. And this is very important because it shows that if you have the right approach, everyone can live independently. And okay, maybe a person with intellectual disability cannot manage very easily their money or do stuff like that. This can be done with a supporting team, but they can still decide if they want to go out or stay at home, or if they want to drink a chocolate or a juice, if they want to buy this bag or that bag, to have as maximum as possible self-determination. So this is very important. I will not take much more time now to describe how all this works. We can do it in questions if you have a question like that, or there is a link here in the presentation, and it's feel free to share my presentation afterwards. And of course, reach to me, and I can send more information. Both are possible. But yeah, it's for everyone. And I like to give the example of Stephen Hawking. Everyone knows Stephen Hawking. In the right environment with services and the right approach, he was a world famous scientist. In the wrong one, like for example, probably in my country, I live in Greece, he would be an institution, he would be considered a plant, finished, and he probably would die 20 years earlier. But in the right environment, he was able to shine. So everything is about support, about the mentality, the approach, and the finding the ways to communicate. So that's just so everyone can live independently. And we have the examples of this happening. It's not just our imagination. You just need the right approach. Then, independent living, as I said in the beginning, is not only personal assistance and the institutionalization, even though these things are the sexiest and the one you hear more often. But of course, it's not that you close the institution tomorrow, you give me personal assistance and everything is solved. If I cannot go out of my home, if I cannot use transport, if I cannot access housing or go to school, to find a job, So you need a lot of other things to be really independent. And the movement established the 12 pillars of independent living, which is, of course, accessibility everywhere, accessibility also in transport, technical aids, so you have access to wheelchair or to whatever else you need. For example, we have a member with autism who communicates with a tablet, and he's a great speaker and a great activist. So for him, technical aid is access to this tablet, and a lot of people need different things. Blind people need something else to read and to all these things, and so on. Accessible housing and adapted housing, it's important. This is a big problem everywhere in Europe and beyond. It's difficult to access housing, which is affordable also and accessible. In Greece, with a touristic boom here in Athens, it's a really big problem to find something livable and decently priced, and that is also accessible. So people don't have really easily where to live. My home is not really that much accessible. I would like to live, but it's not that easy. So I mean, it's quite challenging. Then personal assistance, which is a tool for us to live independently, and I will stay a bit more on that later. Education, we talk always about inclusive education and access to training and to vocational education and everything. We are, of course, not only we, but the CRPD are against segregated and special schools. And this is very important to understand. And again, there are these critics that say, yes, Camille, you can go to a normal school, but not everyone can do it. But we believe and we know that it's possible with the right support and the right approach. Every child can be in the classroom with their peers, no matter of impairment, and they don't need to be segregated. And this is important for both disabled children and non-disabled children, to grow together in the society. So you don't have the stigma and the prejudices and all these other issues that both they and we develop if we are segregated. Of course, access to adequate income is important. This is linked also to employment. We should have employment opportunities for all, but also income in the sense of, of your, benefits or whatever each country provides for you to live decently in terms of your disability and impairment. So access to employment is a very big issue, and you hear it everywhere. Whenever we talk about disability rights, usually the employment aspect is very often on the top. It's something important, and it's very difficult. I don't work in Greece because it was difficult for me to find a job in Greece. I work actually in Brussels remotely, even though I live in Greece. So I mean, there are many barriers to access employment. Access to information and accessible information. It's important. You need to, to be informed about what's happening and have the right for that. And, it should be accessible. Tomorrow happens a war, and you need sign language to understand what's happening. If you don't have this information in an accessible format, you will not know that, a war is happening around you. So, I mean, that's a stupid example, but, just to give you the importance. Advocacy, of course, and self-advocacy, self-representation, the possibility for us to be here and represent ourselves is important. Peer support and counseling, supporting each other. The movement is very important and is one of the key pillars. Access to healthcare, which is appropriate and accessible. It's important. So these are the 12 basic pillars. And recently, Anil proposed a few additional ones because, societies are developing. We are developing. So we think that more things are needed now to live a decent life, an independent life. So access to support and decision making. This is, as I said, for people with a high support need, intellectual impairments, and so on. Knowledge about independent living history, philosophy, and organizing. We need to know what's happening in the movement, what were the challenges in order, to fight and to build the movement of the future. Support for sexual and reproductive rights. This is also sometimes a taboo, but now more and more discussed, and it's important. We have the same rights and desires, and we should have also access to all these things. access to internet and digital technology. We discuss more and more about AI, and everything nowadays is linked online and internet, and disabled people need also this have the right to access and with the right tools for them to work, to communicate, and a lot of these things. Access to legal aid, to legal support. For example, we discuss about you have a conference here and you are a legal organization, and Adolf Fratzka, again, the father of independent living, was very often saying, see you in the court, which means that our rights, it's nice to go out and say we have this right and that right, but we need to fight also legally to make sure, that our rights are guaranteed and are recognized. So legal aspect is very important, and we should have access to that. And support for transitions. Many transitions are a big issue in our lives, from childhood to adulthood, from higher education to universities, or from primary education to higher education, transition to employment, transition from parental home to living independently, or from institutional environment to living independently. All these things, the transitional aspect is important. So we need support with that. For example, I went to special school and then to regular university. It was not as easy as someone might think. I needed to learn to swim at some point. Kind of, we say it in English. I don't know if it makes sense in English. Learning to swim, like you were like a fish that you needed to learn how to do it, how to deal from the protected environment. So for me, it was okay, but for many, it's not. And, we have these different transitions. So it's important. Then everything we say is based on the CRPD, as I said, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. And we have the Article 19, especially on living independently and being included in the community. I mean, there is no reason for me to read it now. I need to respect also the time. But, in the CRPD article, you have mentioned about independent living, about personal assistance, community services, and all, and that we are not obliged to live in any particular living arrangement, which is very important. But of course, because the article is relatively small and the articles of CRPD are small, some of these articles, the UN CRPD committee decided to develop a general comment. So general comment number 5 is the one about independent living and being included in the community. So it's a longer document by the CRPD committee, which gives definition of what is independent living, what it means to be included in the community, what are independent living arrangements, what is personal assistance, what is not, stuff like that. And this is in quite a few languages, like the CRPD also. And one of the key tools for living, in the community with the support you need out of institutions is personal assistance. So the general comment has quite a big, a clear definition of what it is, personal assistance. There, it says you can find it or later in the presentation or ask me. I'm happy, but for this time's sake, I will skip. So the general comment, personal assistance is very important. This is a very nice picture I love from another Mareike. This is a Mareike from Belgium. It says that she has a banner and saying, I need more personal assistance budget so my mother could help more in a refugee camp. And it shows that we are not only caring about ourselves, but we are part of the society. And with the right support, we want to make a change for everyone. So this was a very clever double message for the support she needs and for the refugee support. And then we work a lot on deinstitutionalization and on EU funds to go to community living. Here in the picture in the middle, we see our co-chair, Jamie Bolling, being in a cage during a performance protest we did during a freedom drive in the past in front of one of the EU buildings. And there is a paper on the cage saying this project is funded by the European Union. So we wanted to give a very strong message, which attracted, by the way, a lot of media and people. You see people taking photos in the back. That, still a lot of European money is going against the CRPD, and then human rights is going to segregating facilities, institutions. And in the photos, we see institutions in different countries funded with money of Europe. I think there's in Bulgaria, in Spain, in Austria. I mean, the ones here in the photos, in Estonia, and I don't remember the other one where it is, probably Portugal. But I mean, we have in many countries similar stories. So there is legal framework about, the institutionalization and our right to live independently. Again, because of time, I will not read the whole thing now, but you can read it in the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU, the Convention of Rights of Disabled People, and the European and the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union. And the EU law and the CRPD prohibit institutionalization as discrimination. Again, it's very clear, and I want to read it because of the time, but yeah, we should not be discriminated. And institutionalization is a discrimination, so that's very important to know. And we advocate a lot on the right to live independently in the EU, and that the money of the EU are going to inclusive facilities and independent living and community living and not segregation. And here, you have some budget streams of the Europe that could be used for independent living, and that are supposed to foster independent living, but and that the structural funds and this have a very good potential to support independent living. For example, the pilot project on personal assistance in Greece at the moment is funded with European money, but and so there are good examples, and EU money can be used. These different funds here can be used for supporting independent living, but we know that they are still being used to fund segregation very often. We have reported numerous cases of investment into institutions, the European Commission. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's very difficult. The special rapporteur of the rights of persons with disabilities says that the relevant authorities do not believe that segregating disabled people into institutions amounts to discrimination. And unfortunately, sometimes this is true. And even though the EU Ombudsman recommended to Commission to provide clear guidance on DI and take actions to end investment into institutions, we also saw that some other legal bodies have said that sometimes it's even okay to do it, which is a big problem. There are, of course, obstacles to monitoring the use of EU funds on national and European level, but there are some ways. I don't read everything because of the time, just to say that there are obstacles. And I was also asked to say one thing about independent living and artificial intelligence, because it's a topic important nowadays. So that's my two last slides very quickly, to bring also this aspect, that nowadays more and more artificial intelligence has significantly impacted our lives, both positively and negatively. And this can help also, our independent living and deinstitutionalization. And we are adopting more and more AI in different aspects of our lives, including for education, employment, communication, socializing. And, the AI has the potential to make us more independent and needing less support from human every time. So in that aspect, we did research, because there is a dearth of research on the topic, on AI and disabled people. So we did a project and a research in the beginning of this year, actually. And we developed a fact sheet, which can be found on the link here on the blue thing. But we had some key finding that we adopt quite a lot of tools, and the disabled people are using these tools to reduce human intermediaries and to perform different tasks, such using home appliances, like to open your door or the condition or the lights, to communicate, to read and to work, a lot of things. But also some skepticism and some worries about biases, about privacy policies, about discrimination by AI tools, and about data. And we also based our work on, we source the literature to explore potential AI and how it can be relevant to independent living and whether it can be harm or beneficial and all these things. So there are many ideas in this fact sheet, and we discuss things like privacy violation, what technologies can be beneficial for us, what can be discriminating, and of course, there is this call in the end of the fact sheet that disabled people should be included in the development, deployment, and governance of AI and of general in emerging technologies, because, nothing without us. And this is my final slide with a message for you. So we all must promote and demand independent living. All policies on all levels should be fully in line with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This is our tool and the best thing we have, and the EU ratified it, the countries ratified it. So we have a very strong advocating tool, and we should use it. Then we don't want cure, care, or protection. We are not sick. We want the right to support, to make our own decisions, good or bad decisions, but ours. And we, the disabled people, have to be united and fight together for our human rights. We cannot sit and expect others to come one day and help us. We have to be proud, strong, and visible, which is also the motto of ENIL. Thanks a lot. That's my contact information in case you need it. And of course, the Malek and the organizers of the event have my contact information, and I am happy for them to share it with whoever wants it. So that's it. Thank you. I hope I didn't violate it much of the time. And the floor to you, Malek.